Hey everybody, what is going on? HexLex here, and I've got another Pokemon Pocket video for you for the first time in quite a while. We are going to be playing a Darkrai and Giratina deck. So our list over on the left is going to be 2 Darkrai EX, 2 Giratina EX, 1 Kamala, 2 Pokeball, 1 Giant Cape, 2 Rocky Helmet, 2 Professor's Research, 1 Sabrina, 1 Cyrus, 2 Mars, 1 Red, 1 Leaf, and finally 2 Pokemon Center Lady. First opponent here is going to be on Dialga EX. We are playing on Ranked Ladder, but I have not played this game in quite some time, so we are going to be playing beginner into Pokeball Ranked. I know, not quite the most highest caliber of competitive play, but it'll do for now. So yeah, getting back into Pokemon Pocket quite a bit lately. To be fair, I never fully quit the game outright at all. Basically, I was just very casually following it, really just logging in and getting my daily pack, and that was about it. I will say that I was a little bit discouraged for a little while, not really pulling anything good and not really having the desire to spend money on the game. It's a lot of the reason why I stopped uploading it, but in this latest pack, I've gotten really lucky and pulled quite a few stuff, and also been saving up pack points, and that's why I got my second Giratina here. I finally crafted it relatively recently. The first one I got from the, Pick a Star deck campaign, which I wish they would do that for every single pack. Hopefully that'll be the case for the next pack too. We'll just have to see. But in any case, yeah, really excited to be battling in Pocket again. Definitely going to be trying to cover some more meta decks. I know there's a new pack coming out here soon, so I'm kind of saving up some pack points for that too. Hopefully I can have a high-level meta deck once the new pack rolls around as well. But yeah, so Darkrai Giratina is definitely a high-level meta deck, arguably the best deck in Pocket right now. So if you're wondering why we play the Kamala, by the way, Darkrai and Giratina themselves are pretty obvious. They are very self-sufficient EXs as far as like dealing damage and using energy efficiently. And yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory, but you might see the Kamala there and be like, well, what's going on with that? So that is to counter exactly Oricorio. Oricorio, of course, having 70 HP and saying that it cannot be damaged from attacks of your opponent's EX Pokemon. The Kamala, which can attack for 70 damage on 2 colorless energy, is the perfect counter to that. Of course, you'll have to set up the Kamala on the bench so that way it doesn't fall asleep, but that's really not that big of an ask. Really, the game plan here is, like I said before, pretty simple, right? We're looking to run out the Darkrai and the Giratina. Ideally, we do actually go first in this deck and open Giratina. That's going to let us attack with the Giratina as early as turn 4. Otherwise, you do have to skip a turn of attacking with a Darkrai, assuming you open both, in order to set up the Giratina. Because if you go second and you're using the space-time, Broken Bellow, you'll get 2 turns of setting up in addition to the 2 turns of Dark Energy on Darkrai. By the time you get the 3rd energy on Darkrai, you're probably going to want to start attacking. So that's when you have to skip attacking in order to build energy on the Giratina. Still very much worth it, though. Easy to see why this deck is so good. It's reliant on entirely basics, so no need to draw into the rare candy and evolved forms to get lucky there. You only have to play a very small handful of Pokemon, which means you have a lot of room for trainers in order to make sure that you are playing, an optimal lineup for countering whatever meta you happen to be playing in, right? Or just assisting the deck overall, so yeah, as far as those trainer cards go, the Rocky Helmet, I definitely like having 2 of that here. It basically lets your first basic Pokemon act as a much more broken Druddigon. You can tell how far behind I am in the Pocket meta since I'm referencing Druddigon, but she doesn't really see any play anymore, but saw a ton of play, when I quit. Or not quit, but, took my little hiatus there from battling. But yeah, there's no really need to play Druddigon in decks anymore, and Rocky Helmet can just turn, whatever you're playing into a better Druddigon, right? And of course, there was always the possibility of Druddigon and Rocky Helmet, but you really just don't need to be spending those slots on more Pokemon. The game has definitely progressed to a point where there are so many good trainer cards that you are looking to only play the bare bones amount of Pokemon that are essential to your strategy. And a lot of these newer supporter cards, in conjunction with these strategies are just better than having something like a Druddigon, right? For here in this deck, we're playing Pokemon Center Lady as one of our main kind of support cards that you don't tend to see in a lot of other decks. You see some on 1, but this build is on 2. Because we are reliant on the Giratina and Darkrai that we're building up, it's important to not only heal them, but also remove those special conditions to ensure that they're going to be able to stick around long enough for us to get our payoff for them. Alright, so here in this game, we're up against a pretty generalist grass deck, but it is on the Celebi as well. That first game, all our opponent had was Dialga, we were able to run over it pretty easily there. I will say that grass decks are definitely the bane of this deck's existence. Like, yeah, the Giratina isn't weak to grass, but Darkrai is, in my experience, going to be a lot of how you get your wins, again, especially going second, which, of course, is weak to grass. I think my only losses so far, playing in ladder, have been to exactly grass decks, but I'm not really too worried about this opponent in this situation because we have the Giratina up front with the Rocky Helmet to stall setup. So yeah, I'll have to switch the Darkrai in, but not until I'm able to basically guarantee a KO on the Celebi. Celebi has 130 HP, so it shouldn't take too long for us to be able to wear it down and then just, you know, finish it off with a Dark Prism. Now, getting the second Darkrai is actually really nice because there are a lot of times where you want to keep stacking Dark Energy on Darkrai to keep getting the 20 damage, you know, off of the ability, but obviously once you've put 3 energy on Darkrai, that's all you need to attack, and at that point, if you've got like Kamala or Giratina up, you'd rather start attaching energy to that. So, I like having the second Darkrai because, again, it's a nice excuse to keep using the ability to deal damage there. Alright, our opponent's Celebi has got 2 grass energy. It's pretty much ready to go at this point. Looks like they are going to end up using Leaf to retreat their Execute for the Celebi EX. I was wondering if they would end up trying to retreat it or if they would just let me finish it off with my ability, but yeah, they're going in with the Celebi here, flipping 2 coins because of course the 2 grass energy here. And unfortunately for me, they are going to land 2 heads. Now, my Giratina is going to survive this, but it does put me in a pretty unoptimal position because now my Giratina's only got 50 HP. All it is going to take is 1 heads for my opponent to be able to KO it. Thankfully, we do draw the second Pokemon Center Lady here, so that gives me a good excuse to use one of them. And now, even by healing up to 30, I'm just putting my Giratina above 50, which is going to force my opponent to flip 2 heads and not just 1 in order to get the KO here, right? Now, the other thing about grass decks that ends up being really annoying when you're trying to get chip damage in like I am, is of course the fact that they can heal so efficiently. They have access to Erica, of course, on top of stuff like Potion, and, well, you really probably would never play Pokemon Center Lady if you're playing Erica, but there are grass Pokemon like Shaman and Butterfree. I don't even know if those are played anymore. Long story short, grass has a lot of ability to heal. So, yeah, getting this chip damage in is another reason why the grass strategies can be a little bit more tricky to handle. Now, we get pretty unlucky here again with our opponent flipping 2 heads. That is going to KO the Giratina here. However, the Rocky Helmet's going to put the Celebi down to 70, which puts it well within my Darkrai's range. Even if it were still at 90, to be fair, I could simply attach a Dark Energy to one of my Darkrai's here and still get the KO, but don't necessarily have to do that. I could start building up the Kamala if I want to, but I think I'm probably just going to build up the Darkrai anyway here. This Rocky Helmet I'm just going to throw on the Darkrai. Although, to be fair, it's not going to be nearly as useful. I mean, it might be, right? I'm just really worried about this Darkrai getting KO'd because our opponent does already have 2 points here, right? So they just need to KO one of my Pokemon, even Kamala, to take the win. But thankfully, the Dark Prism, as mentioned, is going to KO the Celebi, so we don't really have to worry about any of that stuff as far as the Celebi threatening us, right? Okay, so they're bringing in the Vespa Queen and following up with the Professor's research. Yeah, like I said, they're just kind of all over the place with the grass deck. As mentioned before, you really do want to focus in on whatever strategy. Like, here, their main threats seem to be the Executor Celebi, which is not a bad deck. There are better grass decks nowadays, but it's not an inherently awful deck, right? The problem is they have all this extra stuff like the Cottony and the Vespa Queen. It's like, what are these really adding to the strategy, right? Let's see with this, like, Scyther here. I mean, Scyther, to be fair, is a little bit more understandable because of how aggressive it is, but yeah, all in all, Executor / Celebi is already an aggressive enough deck, and they really should be having more trainers like Erica potentially to heal that Celebi, which they didn't draw. Could have helped them out. Anyway, here the Vespiquen only has 100 HP. Very clean kill. We get to just use the ability plus the attack of Darkrai in order to get our win here. Again, we're at the lower ranks because we're just getting back into the game, so not all of our opponent's decks are going to be streamlined, but it's all good. We'll get back up there eventually. Or up there in general. I've never... I didn't play the last ranked season at all. Like, even one game. Like I said, I've been logging into opening packs, but not been battling at all. Anyway, our last opponent's going to be on another grass deck, Venusaur EX. So, I had played against one other Venusaur deck before this point, when I was battling off-screen. And that deck actually did end up beating me. It's funny, and this is true of a lot of meta decks, but there's always like one off-meta deck out there for every meta deck that's just an inherently awful matchup, and I feel like Venusaur EX has got to be an awful matchup for Darkrai decks, because if the Venusaur EX gets fully online, I feel like there's just nothing Darkrai can do at that point. So it'll be a little bit of a race against the clock for us here, as our opponent's getting to lead with Bulbasaur, and we are leading with a Darkrai here. Okay, yeah, not a necessarily optimized build on our opponent's part here as they're throwing out... what is that Pokemon there? I don't remember the name of that particular bird Pokemon. I will say Gen 7 is one of the few that I have not played. I did own a 3DS, but I ended up getting rid of it at a certain point. That was between Gen 6 and 7. So I played X and Y, but I have not played Sun or Moon. I played Sword and Shield because I got that for a Switch, but would you believe if I say I did not buy Scarlet and Violet? So Gens 7 and 9 are the only ones I have not played. So not as familiar. And of course those are the last two expansions that just came out as well. So yeah, when it comes to names and putting names to visuals with the last two sets, I'm not as good as I am with a lot of other ones, but it's all good. So yeah, our opponent's got the heals and the Leaf Cape for the Bulbasaur evolving into Ivysaur, which, yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I mean when I say exactly Venusaur can wreck Darkrai if you can't catch up, and our opponent's making it really hard for us to catch up in terms of the amount of damage we're able to deal. Not only, of course, with the heals, but also by boosting the max HP with Leaf Cape. Leaf Cape is such a good card for grass decks. Better Giant Cape is like exactly what the grass type needed. I do have a Meowscarada and Decidueye deck built. That's what I would consider to be like the optimal grass deck, although we can see here why our opponent's playing Venusaur. Yeah, with the shiny full art, which I actually own a copy of this as well. My, not to toot my own horn or anything, but my shiny collection's pretty cool. I've got a Charizard EX, a Venusaur EX, and a Starmie EX, all full art and shiny. Yeah, like I said, my luck with this last pack has randomly just been, like, insanely good. So that's a lot of the reason why I've felt motivated to get back into battling on Pokemon Pocket here. Okay, so with the red, I can go into a boosted Dark Prism that'll knock the Venusaur down to 80 HP. Now, if my opponent somehow has no heals here, I can potentially KO the Venusaur on the next turn with my Dark Prism. The problem is that it's a grass deck, so of course they're going to have heals. They have a potion, which already potentially could still be in range if I use the ability of Darkrai, but Lily healing 60 is definitely going to be a bit of a nail in the coffin for me there, as far as my ability to catch back up in terms of damage. Yeah, because even if they only had a potion, I could attach an energy to Darkrai, knock them down to 80, and then KO here, and that would just secure me the win. But that one Lily, as you were seeing, is enough to actually flip the game on its head and now put me in a very much losing position, especially because I never did draw a Giratina or even a second Darkrai here. I do have this Kamala, but Kamala by itself is not going to be enough to really do it. I'm kind of debating if I want to use my Pokemon Center Lady here, but there's really no point here, because even healing 30 is not going to save me from Giant Bloom. See, Giant Bloom heals 30, which will put the Venusaur back up to 90, which is pretty unfortunate because with the Guzma taking off the Rocky Helmet, now my Kamala has no chance to have a comeback KO. Even if I do draw a Darkrai here, I, one, would have to still attach Dark Energy to Kamala to attack, and two, wouldn't be able to have enough damage anyway. So yeah, brutal couple of draws. If it weren't for, you know, those heals from my opponent, well, the heal, really, if it weren't for the Lily into the Guzma, I could have taken this one, but you know what? It happens even here at the lower banks. That's all good. But we're wrapping up this video. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Super appreciate those who do and watch till the end. But I'm signing out. Have a great day.